Hey everybody! Hi, it's 11:30 and 11:36 I think, and just want to go ahead and start my live review of what I encountered and just pretty much being at the rally, at to see the March for Life rally that was actually yesterday the 24th or yeah yesterday the 24th. Today's the 25th, January 25th, 2020, and so I just want to talk about some of the things that I encountered. I thought if I had more time too, or if I had opportunity, what I would do. I have this as an open live chat, so if anybody wants to ask me questions or stuff like that, I can have that as well. Not to mention, I can also I was gonna do some painting of some of the things that I've been making as we go through. But I just want to kind of give you a synopsis of everything that's happened so far. So right now, I'm in my kitchen, and I'm pretty much in my kitchen. I'm right now we're kind of eating some food and getting things done. Anyway, so I just wanted to talk and say, hey. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Gregory Valentine, like Valentine's Day. And what I'm gonna do is I just wanted to give you a little synopsis as to what happened yesterday and the event and how cool it was as we went to this event. First and foremost, like I want to say something. I am glad to be able to do this, to be able to share and talk with you about different things that have an opportunity, even a forum to be able to share. I'm really glad for this whole thing with Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, being able to share things in my life and be able to let people know about like things that I'm thinking about. So I think it's really cool, and so without further ado, I'm just gonna go ahead and just kind of put a couple things up and just kind of say some things. Well, yesterday I had to work. I was working overnight, and as I was working, I was working in my job, and on the job, I pretty much I had one of these things called an order picker. An order picker is kind of like a big old platform that you stand on, and as you raise it up and things like that, you move. So what happened as I was on the order picker, I had some boxes on it, right? And when I was moving forward with the order picker, I bumped into something, and so the two boxes there, it fell right onto my leg. They hit me right in my leg. It didn't not enough to damage me, but just enough to get a punch in your muscle. Like get a punch in your muscle. That's what happened. So I got a little bit of a not a bruise or nothing, but just a soreness right in my left leg. So that I say that because that was about maybe 2 o'clock in the morning or so. Um, maybe maybe like 11 or 12. Anyway, so what happened was like so the boxes hit me right in the meat of my leg, right in the meat of my leg, and so I was kind of like hobbling a little bit. But so I say this because what happened after that was I had to go on this tour. We went to this tour, and so it was a mile walk. But before that, I had to ride my bike home. So I rode my bike from my job home, my little sore leg. It wasn't broken or bruised, it's not even damaged. It's just sore. It's like somebody punches you right in your muscle, kind of thing like that. So that's what happens. Kind of the pain of it. Anyway, so what happens? I want to just say, so that after I rode my bike home, it's pain, and after I finished working, I left there around 3. I continued on, went home, and as soon as I got home, everybody's waiting for me at the door because we're gonna go on this bus trip, bus trip to Washington. So what ends up happening is that as I get in, it's just not even a second. I have to kind of just turn around and then go back, and then we get into the car and we get onto the bus. And after we get onto the bus, we're sitting on the bus for this 5-hour trip, and my legs are like, my leg. So hey, how you doing? Good to see you, Astro Studios. Hello, good to see you. And so what happens is like I wanted to say that as I was riding over there, it was painful riding. So we rode over there and we got all the way to to Washington D.C. So it's about a 5 hour trip. So like 5:47 we left New York City. Around 11 a.m. we arrived. So looking at almost 5-6 hours, and we arrived in Washington D.C. And so this wasn't my first time. This is like my third time being in Washington D.C. I actually was there before. I went in 2012. First time 2012. My wife and kids and I, we went with when Abby and Chloe and Lucas. No, Lucas went there. Abby, Chloe, and Titus, and Amy and I. We weren't there. And one of the things was like when we went to the we're there. We got a chance to put our foot into the fountain. They're like, you're not supposed to do that, but we were able to do that. Got some good pictures. I have it on my Instagram, on my Facebook. I'll show it to you at some point. But we got a chance to go there. That was 2012. We went again last year in 2019, and so we were on our way to Florida, and our car broke down. But we were able to spend the whole day Sunday in Washington, and that was really cool. Got a chance to actually go and see all the sites. We didn't go inside any buildings. And I was hoping maybe this time we would go inside some buildings, but we did. We actually went into a few, but we were for the most part that we were outside walking the whole National Mall area, And so then this one, 2020, we went to see. We were able to see that. So when we got there, I got a couple of pictures. Oh, cool! That's awesome. Oh man, I wish you knew you were going there because we would have probably met up. Astro Studios, I see the live chat, so as I see the live chat, so I'm going to be able to respond to that. So that was really cool. It was a very cool event. When I got there, we had to find parking for the bus, and so the bus had about 45 people on it. And it was interesting because it's like, I've always wanted to do something like that, actually, to go and to be part of a rally like that. I mean, I went to several rallies before. We went to the one here in New York. I still have the band for that one, for New York, the Focus on the Family one. And it was about, see life clearly. So I still have the band for that. We went to the one last year. And that was like last year, I think like May or something. Maybe early May. I'm not sure when it was. But we went to the one that was in, I still have the band. I've had this band for a whole year now. And it hasn't, you have the little purple little tags. And it's like that these break off. Well, this doesn't break off. I still have it. Thanks. It was cool actually. The one they had here, was different than the one they had over in Washington. The one they had here was they had like many screens. They had many screens and visuals. So when one screen in the very front, there was like maybe 4 or 5 more screens coming back with Focus on the Family. So they had the first one was one screen with the live show, and they had it copied. So you had like several rows back of like when you go into the live meeting in the one here in New York City, it was different. But the one in Washington, D.C., they had like one screen. And I was like, oh man, that one screen, everybody spoke at this one area. So when I got there, it was so many people that were there. There was like a lot of people who were just like, just kind of everybody was around walking and talking and stuff like that. And we had our banners. And, we had a couple of banners too. Let's see, I have a couple. Well, we have the one that my son had. Let's see if I can show you that one. He had this one. See, I came in from work, so I get a chance to even like make a banner. His was Choose Life, and on the other side too was Choose Life, so you could have it Choose Life from the front and from the back. And so that was really cool to be able to have him do that. So his was Choose Life. I saw a couple of really cool banners, and one of the ones I thought was this one. I really like this one, Life Begins in the Womb, because it's like that's just awesome. You can't argue with that. Life begins in the womb. It says that's I like that one. So when we got there was a lot of people. We were by you're looking at the Washington Monuments behind us, right? Washington Monuments behind us. So we came in that way, and there was all these people before there's like a checkpoint. So there's a checkpoint ahead. So you have the Washington Monument, then there's a checkpoint, right? And then you're heading towards Capitol Hill. So Capitol Hill is on the other side. So you have Capitol Hill all the way down here. The Washington Monument's here. Then before you get there, here's like a whole series of like what do you call it? Checkpoints and metal detectors and stuff like that. And so that's kind of like a problem for me because I have my knife on me. I always have my Swiss Army knife, my little my Leatherman type knife that I always have with me, and so I had that, and so I was like, oh goodness, I'm not gonna be able to go through this thing because we're gonna have the president speak. Actually, Trump was there. He was actually able to be there, the first president ever to be there, and so. U.S. president ever be on a March for Life rally, and so this is like the history of that. It's the 47th March for Life rally that's been put since Roe versus Wade, and so I think Roe versus Wade happened on the 20th of January 20th of 1973 is when the whole Roe versus Wade thing. So they've been protesting this. We have been protesting this, for since the beginning. So this is the 47th year since then. I could be wrong with my time and stuff, but I know it's the 47th year. So when we were there, I was so hoping to have more screens because I had the screen idea of New York. When we were here in New York, we had so many screens that were there, and so we were able to see clearly the people. So I was able to get some video and footage of people speaking. It looked really big and really, and there was no checkpoints in New York. New York had no checkpoints. We had no to go through metal detectors and things like that. And I guess the reason is because the president was going to be there. So the president was there, and he actually got a chance to speak. So President Trump was there, and he was able to speak and talk, to the people. There's this was really cool because the emphasis was like pro-life is pro-woman. It was to say that don't just what's the word? Don't just think that pro-life is only about saving the baby and disregarding the woman. No, it was about save both. It has a thing where it says save both. It says I wonder if I could find one here. I think I have one. I'm not sure. I might have one, but it was no, I don't have the one that I thought I had that one, but it was like the one that says about it says I vote. This one here is a cool one. It says I vote pro-life. This one here, this says here. It says I kid you not. It was so weird. This keeps happening. When I was at the National Mall yesterday and I was trying to record the entire event, my phone kept on doing this, where it kept on just shutting off on me. So I'm in the middle of conversating, talking, and all of a sudden, boom, live video, boom. It must have done like 3 times. I was like, this is frustrating. So what I did was I took my other camera and I was able to record everything with my other camera that's like live, not live video, but actually like a recorded video because I made space on that phone just in case for that event. So I was able to do that. So I was really happy for that reason. So this one here, it says I vote. So it says I vote pro-life. And then this one here it says the most pro-life president ever. Now, see, I didn't vote last time, so I didn't vote last time because I thought both of them were kind of crazy, you know, either Hillary or Trump, and I wasn't sure who to pick. So I decided let me just not vote. But you know, so we'll see how it turns out this year, huh? Anyway, long story short, it says I like some of these other ones. It says pray to end abortion. You know, 40 days for life, and this is the one that was pretty much in terms of the Abby Johnson, and the she did the movie. Goodness, why is my brain Unplanned? The movie Unplanned. We watched that movie. That movie was a really good movie. We watched that one. We thought it was really cool, and because he's like, you know, I remember back in high school, I did a report. I actually did a report on abortion and about how bad abortion is and how, you know, the viability of the baby. Well, we call baby the fetus, but the word fetus is actually the Greek word for baby. Anyway, so what happens is that, or unborn child, and so what happens is like as you're doing this, I was able to like get a couple of these, you know, really cool banners like I stand for life, and so it was so cool just to be there. Anyway, so that's one, and then so when Trump spoke yesterday, President Trump spoke, it was really good because you know, he said a lot of things that were cool. I'm not here just kind of, you know, to promote Trump or say anything, but I'm just going to say that the fact that he was there, he's able to speak, and it was really cool that I was able to be there to hear him say that, and I thought it was great because, you know, when you look at how many other presidents say that they are pro-life or they're pro-choice, whatever, they were never able to go to that. I mean, last year Mike Pence went to it, but this year Trump actually was there to speak. So because of that, security was crazy high, and so because the security was so high, I couldn't go past the checkpoint because, you know, I had my blade on me, my Leatherman on me, so I couldn't get past the thing because I always carry it with me. So that's just how it is. So anyway, so the thing was like, and so after he left, then checkpoints came down and everything started to be opening up. So we were able to go to the areas where it's the white floors. They had these like plasticky floor things on the ground, and it was like almost like a standing on like PVC type thing on the ground. So you stand on that, and it was really good. So you stand on that, and it was nice and firm, and you could roll a stroller on that, no problem. Then it was like, you know, you have a thing where you know you have a thing where it's like we were able to get closer and closer to the screen, but I was like, you know, I was kind of disappointed in the fact there's only one little screen to see everything, you know, maybe where I was standing, but I walked from where it was, you know, at the end of the National Mall, right before you get to the area of the Washington Monument, heading towards, you know, up towards the Capitol Hill. What happens is like, you know, I didn't see like any more screens, like any more giant screens so we could see the people. I mean, I saw a picture and was able to see Trump speaking, and it was like behind a tree, but it was far back, about maybe 2 blocks or so. I was able to see the guy, but I wasn't able to actually be as close as I would like to have been, like to be able to see, like, you know, just wow, he looks like this is the size of the person. It's kind of like he's like really small. You can't really see, really small. You can't really see. Anyway, so anyway, he was there and I was there, and so pretty much I had my leg was bothering me, you know, and you were able to see that. Oh, cool. Just tell me, you got through? Okay, I had all my stuff on me, so I wasn't able to go in, and so we had if I was to go in by myself, I'd have to leave everything, and there was one point where everybody just stopped moving in front of the checkpoints. I mean, there was nobody moving anymore, so I was like, we're stuck with a wall of people. And then people were having their banners up, so you couldn't, like, the banners were blocking our vision, so we couldn't even see around the banner. So we're like, but I could see a little bit, I could see him, but it was like I couldn't get, you know, all the way through, and I was bummed about that. But then, you know, hey, we were there. So after the whole thing with Trump left, the checkpoints came down, and everybody was able to pass through easily, and we went on board. Like, they didn't, you know, nobody cares about if you have anything on you after that. So we went through. And we got to where the sign was, and all the big booths where everybody was speaking, and I was able to meet some people and talk to some people. And as I was there, you know, something happened. It was like this guy came up to me, right, and he asked me if I had anything I wanted to pray for, you know, and so I was like, well, you know, it's kind of cool because, you know, when you're at a rally or an event, like I've been to the Jacob Javits Center, I went to the anime convention last year, and I went to a body painting event last year, and we went to the pro-life rally last year in New York, and we went to the thing upstate, the anti-vaccination up in Albany last year as well. When we got there, there was a thing where it was there was people there, and the people there were all of the same mind. We're kind of unified in the fact that our minds are the same, similar. So it's kind of like when you go to a place and everybody's thinking the same thing, and everybody's unified and together. What happens is that we all can like have a conversation. It's like you have something in common. You know, people always talk about this the Paul Abdul song. You know, opposites attract. Well, that's not true actually. I think similarities attract, and everybody who has a lot of things in common, they tend to attract and they tend to work together. So it was cool. We went there with it was my wife and I and the kids. So the six of us, and then my friend Lori. She was there too. Our friend friend of our family. She's been there with us for a lot of stuff. So we were able to go and spend a good time just walking around and like seeing things. And so it was talking to people. And so I was saying, but the guy came up to me. He started talking to me about like if I had anything he wanted me to pray for. So I was like, well, my leg's kind of hurting me right now. I got a little pain in my left leg, from thing that happened at work. It's not like I'm not injured like it broke anything. It's just sore. And so it's hard to walk. Hard to walk this area to go. It's hard to walk, and so I'm kind of a little cranky. But I told him that, and he says okay. And then I said also I'm praying for a house. I'd love to. If God so would love to. Place where I can my own house kind of thing. That'd be great. So he said, what, let me pray for you, right? So he started praying for me, and it was really cool. And I was like, that's so cool. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he prayed for me. And then I was going to pray that God would heal my leg, and then God would provide for me a home, a house, if that be His will. And that was really cool. And then after that, he said about like how he said about he was just kind of looking at me, and I'm kind of looking at him. I said, you have anything you would like for me to pray for you for? And he's like, well, okay, and he asked me to pray for him, and yeah, thank you so much, it's better now, it's a lot better now, it's just kind of sore, sore left leg. It was the bus ride, and the bus ride there and back like we rode a charter bus back there and back, and it was painful, but we got a good price on that though. It was a really good price. It was only praise God, it was only $40 for us to go, the whole family, $40 to go and come back versus me and Amy and let the kids go for free, which is great. So I was like, this is great. Can't be that going all the way to Washington from New York for $40, baby. So I thought that was great. So then you have that. Next thing was that. So I prayed. I asked him, what anything you want me to pray for you for? And he says, he said, yeah, I'm looking to start a business, and please pray for me on that, and a business venture. I said, okay, well, I'll pray for you. What's your name? He says, his name is Leonard. So I was like, okay, I'll pray for you, Leonard. So Leonard, and I started to pray for him. And then I pray that God would help him, and God would help him to, if it be Your will, going from the promised land. You go from here. Abraham was called out of Ur the Chaldees in the Bible, and he was going to the promised land. And when he got to the promised land, it was barren. It had nothing there. And so instead of Abraham trusting God, he fled to Egypt. Instead of him staying where God had him planned to be, he ran away to another place, to Egypt. And in Egypt, he caused all kind of trouble. So then God had to bring him back to the promised land, and from the promised land, he was able to start, multiplying like he, multiplying. So Abraham believed God, and it was accredited to him for righteousness, the Bible says. Then what happened was that he was able to be blessed, but he caused so much trouble to himself because he didn't trust God. So I just prayed for the gentleman here, Leonard. I said, God will please help him to get what he wants in terms of, be ready for the task at hand, and that he trusts God in the midst of any storm, And he was so happy. He was so happy for that, And then so he was like, "Thank you so much," and I was like, "Thank you. You're welcome." He said, it doesn't matter. We're all Bible said we're all a royal priesthood. We are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation who show forth the praises of Him who called us out of darkness into His marvelous light. You don't have to be clergy, because the Bible says we're all clergy in Christ. So everybody is a believer is clergy. We're a royal priesthood in Christ. So I prayed for that. He was so happy. He was like, "Thank you so much," and he reached his wallet. He gave me like $40. I was like, "Whoa, $40, baby!" So now the trip is absolutely free. So okay, I just went to this trip for free. I was like, "All right." So he was like, and boom, and he blessed me. I was like, "Whoa, you just blessed me with a small fortune." So I was happy. He blessed me with a small fortune there, $40. Yes, you can do it with $40. How many pizzas you can buy? At a 7-Eleven, you can get a pizza like $5.99. You get a whole pie for $5.99. I think it's like $7.99. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's $7.99 or $7.50. One of those. But before it was $5, for a whole pie. And then you have a family like mine that's big. You can get a big pie. You get 2 pizzas for like $10, which is great. But now it's 2 pizzas for $15, which is almost the same. Which is still cheaper than all the other chains. Anyway, long story short. After that, it was like we went and got we went walking around some more, and it was starting to get cold because the weather changed. It went from being like hot and like 50 degrees, which is like hot here in New York. It's 50 degrees like summer, and then so in Washington, 50 degrees was pretty toasty, So we're like, okay, wearing our jackets and stuff. Like, okay, it's starting to get too hot. But anyway, so what happened after that was like we after that we were like let's go ahead and start walking, and so it started getting cold, started to rain even a little bit, a couple of drizzles here and there. And as we were there, we were next thing was for the march. So we're gonna go for the march from like on the left side. So you have the there's a right side of the street coming this way, and this inside the National Mall. So inside the National Mall, you have one. You know, the buildings of the Smithsonian all around you, right? All around you, Smithsonian buildings, and you have the street here, another street. And so one of the streets we were walking up, that's when you have the march. So as we're waiting for the march to happen, it's kind of like it's like everything's kind of taking forever. You know, my leg is like hurting because I'm trying to stand on the leg and it's like my leg. But okay, I'm gonna hang in there because like you know, there's no place to sit down. You know, and so. The same guy comes back again a little later, and he's like, "Oh, there's coffee over there, you know, for $2." Coffee for $2. So, you know, he's giving us some money. So I took the thing and went over to. We had cash before that. It was Friday payday, you know. But so he gave me. It was a long story short. We took the money and we went and got some coffee at the little booth right there, and it was so good. I got a chance to actually sit down for a little bit too, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I still want to go to see the Declaration of Independence because last time we were here, we were hoping to see that, and then we were like. The coffee, oh, it was so good, yes. And then the kids got hot chocolate. And the youngest son was like, Lucas was like, hey, can I get some coffee too? You know, and we're like, no, you can't have any coffee. But he's like, I want coffee. And it's like, no, you can't have any coffee. He's like, no, coffee. So we're like, here's hot chocolate. He's like, okay. So he was happy with that. So then we had the coffee, warmed us all up really nicely. And then after we had the coffee, now we have to go use the bathroom. So now I use the bathroom. So I mean, I was good, you know, because I mean, like, you know, I'm just focused on this leg thing, and I'm trying to meet people and talk to people, and I'm praying for people, and just, you know, it's really good. So when we got there, it was one of those things where, you know, people are just like talking, and everybody's like mine, and we got to see them. So we're doing the march now, and we decide to have to go find the bathroom. So we go into like the I think what is the it's a history museum, history of America museum. And it was like really cool. Got a chance to go there, took some pictures, a bunch of pictures on Instagram. If you want to find me on Instagram, my Instagram is Dino Candidates, like not like dinosaur candidates. You hashtag that, you'll find my dinosaur story. But Dino Candidates is me on Instagram. So you'll find I have some pictures there from the trip. You want to look it up, go ahead and see that. Anyway, so that's one of the things. We went inside there, and we weren't allowed to have any of our stuff with us, and so, you know, any of our metal or things like that. So I was outside waiting, and everybody else went inside, and it was really cool just to be able to be there. And it was the part that got to me though. The part that I thought was it did it again. So okay, I'm back in. So the part that got me, was when it talked about save both. You know, when I was in high school, I did a presentation about abortion, anti-abortion, and pretty much, you know, so pro-life rallying. And so since I was in high school, that's back in 19. Oh, okay, cool, yeah, dinosaurs. Yeah, me too. I've been. Astro Studio says I love dinosaurs. I like dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs too. I'll guess tangent on that story in a moment. But before, so as a thought. Remember that dinosaurs. Go back to the dinosaur point. My fingers, I remember. Okay, so what happens? Like, I did a presentation in a presentation at school, in high school, in my senior in high school, for about, it had to talk about a relevant topic that was kind of talked about the valuability of a baby, of a fetus, and if the baby can actually survive outside the womb. And so one of the things was like, you know, the emphasis was always about like the woman's life and a woman's choice and her decision to make this. And he says, you know, it takes two people to make a baby. It takes a man and a woman to make a baby. And then the thing was like, you know, had a thing where, you know, they always had the emphasis of the woman being in by herself making this decision, and because it's her body, so it's kind of like her body, her choice kind of thing. But then it's like we come to learn in science that the baby is actually a foreign entity in terms of the mom. It's like, as a matter of fact, God puts it in us, in our body, in the female body, and everybody's body, all our bodies have a thing where we attack anything that's foreign within our body. So if you get like a splinter, your body's going to attack it and take the splinter and eventually neutralize it and either digest it or spit it out, you know? And so many times people who have transplants have the same situation. If you have like an eyeball transplant or a tooth transplant, forget tooth, I didn't say brain, an eyeball transplant, or you have, I don't know if they have an eyeball transplant. Are there? I don't know. Maybe there are. But there are liver transplants. Let's go with that one. Liver and kidney. And what happens is, do they even do liver transplants? See, I keep... Kidney. Let's go with kidney. Let's start with kidney. Stay with the kidney. All right. Kidney transplants, right? You have the kidney transplants, and what they do is that they have a scenario where it's like over time, about 2 years, like your body is fighting this thing because it's foreign, and it was doing a function, and it's filtering out your urine, and it's filtering out the poisons in your body like your liver does. What happens is that, you know, eventually what ends up happening with your kidney is that your body starts attacking the kidney. So in our body, we have these antigens, and our antibodies are inside there designed to kill foreign entities. So a baby in a woman's body is a foreign entity. But then the thing is also the types of materials that the baby produces itself that fights the body of the woman. So, for example, the body is different, so that way the baby is able to survive. And so, with the estrogen and different chemicals that are there, what happens is that the baby is not succumbed by the body, it's not absorbed or eaten by the female body. So it's one of the things like able to survive inside. So one thing we talked about was that the life of the person involved, it was not her body, it was the baby's body. It's separate from her body. But the thing is, like, there's an aspect when people do have abortions, and I've met many people who have had abortions, and they've left with the other part of it where, like you have the Abby Johnson story where she herself had many abortions. She has the consequence of like knowing that I chose to take someone else's life that's not mine. It's my body, my choice, and this person was innocent. They didn't do anything. They didn't deserve what I put them through. They came into my life because of decisions I've made, or sometimes in the case of rape or incest, the baby comes in with forced decision of other people. But usually, how it is like people make a conscious choice to engage in intercourse, and when they do that, they produce a baby. So, in the aspect of producing the baby, what ends up happening is that they say, "Well, it's my life, my choice," but now it really isn't your life anymore. Now you brought a human being into existence, and that human being now has an existence to fulfill. God has given everybody a purpose. So one of the things I wrote down on my list of stuff I want to talk about was why am I pro-life, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, and then I'll go back to my dinosaur story when I had there and tell you a little bit about that dinosaur thing there, but I'll get into why am I pro-life, and but the thing was, what I was going to say was, he says many times what ends up happening is that people actually are, they have a situation where they put their life, it's your life versus another person's life, and there's a lot of shame and embarrassment and things like that come from having, a baby outside of marriage and things like that. And so what happens is that, people don't want to have the consequences, so they said they do this is the silent murder of this baby, the silent abortion. And so all the people are talking to you and saying, oh, you can do this or you can do this. And what ends up happening is that you do this, later there's the consequences. So when I saw the rally, it said to save both was amazing because it says that's kind of the situation because, a person save both lives, save the life of the baby and the life of the woman because there are people who had abortions and sometimes people could become all jaded and they become anti-human or I don't know what it is, they become really harsh and they're broken inside, they don't know how to deal with that because now they have this blood on their hands, and this is what I think is awesome about the Lord Jesus Christ, that he's able to, wash our hands clean and make us brand new. But first we have to acknowledge that we've sinned. So when we realize that we've sinned against God and we need forgiveness, he's able to wash us clean and make us into a new person. It's called being born again. But what happens up until that point, the person's carrying this guilt, Did it fall down? I think it fell down. And so what happens is that I think it fell down. Let's see if we can make it stand up again. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So what happens is that they're dealing with the guilt of the situation, right? The guilt of the situation. And the situation is that I just did something that I know is horrendous, but I did it because for whatever sake, And there's a verse in the Bible that says, "What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul?" And the whole losing your soul business comes from the fact that what will you willing to exchange for your life? Some say, well, I want to live my life and I want to do my own thing, but then if this baby is gonna come along, it's gonna ruin my life, And I wonder sometimes too, whether or not it's like I think the baby's life would be better, because you have options. You have options of adoption. Forget abortion. Adoption, and you have having the child and having the child change you. I know many people who they wanted to at first kill their child, and then what happens is that God is able to take that same child and change their life. And their life is a million times better than it was before because they were willing to make this sacrifice and make this decision. So you have a scenario like that where it's like it says what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? And that's Matthew chapter 16 verse 26. It said, what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? And so it's like a man or a woman. What can a person give in exchange for their soul? So if they do this, they can lose their soul. Because I always talked about too that I've learned too from reading the Bible that when a baby's produced, a baby's half of your soul. It's like half your soul and half the soul of the other person. So when I have 4 children, I have 2 boys, Titus, Abby, 2 boys and 2 girls. So I have Titus, Abby, Chloe, and Lucas. So the boys are on the end. So Titus, Abby, Chloe, and Lucas, 4 kids. And so what happens is with my children, each of them are half of me and half of Amy, And so being half of me and half of Amy, they all have our personalities, and they also have a personality of their own. So there's each kid is like almost like a third instead of a half. A kid is there's one part us, one part me, one part Amy, and there's one part themselves, and so it's kind of a combination of us. So kids like almost like three parts, and they come out and they all have different combinations of a personality. So it's amazing. So when you have and it's also half of our soul, half my soul, half Amy's soul is our children, and so half my soul or all of my soul comes from half my mom and my dad. So it's like my parents, produced me, and my sisters as well. So it's like my sisters were all half of my parents. So when you take a person out of life, through abortion or through life begins in the womb, you take a person out of life, you actually take them out of existence, and they have a specific. Well, I mean, they have existence, going to spend eternity in heaven, heaven, because now they were alive and now they're dead. But the thing is, the bottom line is that they have a thing where they were alive and they had a purpose to fulfill. And people always talk about, well, maybe if this person, we're waiting for the next genius person here to come into life, and then you have to deal with all the things like when a person comes into life. But the thing is, like, once a person comes up, you don't know how they're going to change this world. It says it only takes one person to change this world. One person to change this world. And so I'm going to tell you really quick why I'm pro-life. Before you tell me the little dinosaur story, it goes like this. When I was back in 7 years old, 5 years old, my sister, older sister Grace, she gave me a dinosaur, and she went to the Museum of Natural History and she got me a little dinosaur. It was a trachodon dinosaur, and this little duck bill. It's kind of like a duck bill dinosaur looking thing. So trachodon, or a natosaurus. And so what happened was it was so cool. She got that for me, and it was like I thought about wanting to be a paleontologist. It wasn't until I'm maybe 5, 6 years old I watched this thing with Christopher Reeve, and he was doing this thing called Dinosaur. It was a claymation type thing, and it's weird how this thing kind of come back around. I liked the whole claymation of how dinosaurs moved. I thought it was great, and so I wanted to be a paleontologist. And so my same sister gave me the trachodon and said to me, Greg, by the way, they're all dead. So she gave me a dinosaur. She gave me a dinosaur, and this is not a dinosaur. This is one I made for my son. This is a little Delta from Delta from Lost World. Sorry, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. I'm sorry. And so what happens is like I made this, so I'm using as an example. So when I have she's the same one came to me and said, dinosaurs, by the way, when you paleontologist, all you're gonna be doing is digging up bones. You're not gonna be dealing with any live dinosaurs. So I was like, so it kind of like sent me for a tailspin because I thought I don't want to be digging up bones. What's the fun of that? What I really liked, I didn't know at the time, was the animation aspect. I really liked the whole animation and the movement of the dinosaur, like the whole head bobbing and all that stuff. I liked that, and not so much the whole science behind it and all that. I really liked just the animation. I know animation comes from the science, but they never saw any of them walk anyway. So what are they talking about, right? So the thing is, like, they always talked about using live animals to simulate the fake animals or animals they've never seen before, and just have the bones. So anyway, so that whole dinosaur thing was the prerequisite for where I went from dinosaurs to next thing was I wanted to have little dinosaurs as pets, which are little lizards. So I had lizards for pets. I had a whole bunch of them. I had about maybe at one point I had 22 different species of lizard. I had geckos, a lizard I'd monitor. I had a fence swifts and things like that. A whole bunch of different, the anoles and little green chameleons that you could find in Florida. The Bahama ones, I had a whole bunch of them. I had geckos, tons and tons of geckos. And they kept on getting sick because, unbeknownst to me at the time, there was a plant inside the cage that was poisonous. I didn't know it was poisonous, and I learned that later, and I feel terrible for that. And I killed about a bunch of lizards, and I'm so sorry for that because if I had known, I wouldn't have put the poison plant in there because I wanted to be real. I wanted to be realistic looking cage with terrarium and all that with live plants and things like that. Anyway, so what happened? One of the plants' name is Dieffenbachia, which is very toxic, by the way. Dieffenbachia, the dumb cane plant, and it killed all my lizards. And because they would drink water off the thing, and who knew it caused inflammation? I knew that now. So I feel terrible. So now, whenever I have lizards, well, I don't have any lizards anymore, but when I did have lizards, I had fake plants. Fake plants, I got the whole thing from Petland, and I got fake plants, and that's how I did it from then on out. But I wanted to be a lizard doctor, so I went into, when I got to my 4 years of high school, I was in the animal science program. On the animal science program, we had to work with animals, and so we did 2 years with plants and then 2 years with animals, and it was plant science and animal science. And what happened was in that I learned how to farm, and learned how to take care of a plot of land. And in the first 2 years, how to farm and take care of land. And so I took that home and immediately started working with that, how to farm. And we have an Urban Gardening with Children page on our Facebook. So Urban Gardening with Children. We did that for a number of years. The next one we had was next 2 years. Oh, lizard's names, oh goodness. The first lizard was Rex, and of course every first lizard is Rex. Next one, Rex, Rocky, Leroy. Then it was like, started getting into more names. I had different ones. Like I had, one was like Midnight, because it was like really dark. Like Midnight was a black one, and it was such a cool lizard, but that one died in the cage. Then I had different geckos. The latest one I had that I had was a flying gecko. I always wanted to have a flying gecko, and I finally got one. And his name was Gigan. We had two Uromystics. They were butterfly gamma lizards, and they were called one was I would call him Solomon, the other one the Shulamite, because from the Book of Song of Solomon we had Solomon and Shuli, so we call them Solly and Shuli, and those were so cool. At that point I had learned not to put any fake plants in the cage, but they used to burrow into the sand, and they would come up every so often and be like look around and go back into the sand. I would throw things in there. They'd be like sand lizards. They would just love being under the sand, and they had like this thing on their side when you pull their little flap of skin, because it was the closest thing I could get at that point to a flying gecko, but then I had that was like the latest two, and toward the latest two, the most recent one, the last lizard I had was I had a series of flying geckos. I had Gigan from Godzilla, and the name of Godzilla, arch enemy. I had a bunch of different ones, and eventually that was I stopped having them because I didn't like the whole theater of death thing. I stopped. I said I don't understand why in a sense pets are cool, but then in a sense they're also my prisoner. So I didn't want them to be prisoners anymore, I didn't want them to be prisoners anymore. I wanted them to just be free. And so, anyway, long story short, I stopped having lizards for pets, and I started making my stuff. I started little dinosaur figurines and things like that. So I started like making my own little dinosaur stuff and things like that. This was for my apron at work, and so I decided to just take it. Oh, you had an iguana named Zuri? Oh, that's cool. How long did your iguana live? How long did your iguana last before, or do you still have it? Because iguanas live a long time. So mine, I had a bunch of them that started off as babies, and they went all the way to, they got to old age and they died. And so that was really good at taking care of lizards. Um, it was sad though that they went the way they did. But anyway, so that was one of the things. So I wanted to be a lizard doctor. You can't be a lizard doctor. You got to be a veterinarian. So I went to pre-veterinarian school. Well, I didn't have pre-veterinarian training, and it was with my school. And it was 2 years of animal science. And then so one of our internships, for the first internship we did was work on the land. I had a land farm, so we had to kind of take care of a 15 by 15 plot of land, and there I learned how to farm. So in my junior year, between my junior and my senior year, I went to this thing called there's a farm cadet, or a cadet where you're going to be like the animal science cadet, right? And I begged them. I said, please let me go to the Bronx Zoo, because the Bronx Zoo is like one of the biggest wildlife conservation wild conservation societies type thing with all these different animals, and I wanted to work in a reptile house. I really wanted to work in a reptile house. That'd be great. So there was a guy, and he worked there already. He was an intern there, and he. Oh God! Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It says she said the car ended her life. The life of Zuri as iguana. God, I'm sorry. That's. I hate death. I hate death. I have to get that point with my whole dinosaur thing. I'm telling you, I hate death. Death is a horrible thing. I don't think anybody who likes death. The people who make fun and they pretend that they like it, but death is really a terrible, horrible thing. And well, in my junior year, senior high school, I was trying to get to become a veterinarian. I was going to be a veterinarian, a zoo vet, or even a zoologist veterinarian. And what happened was, like, when I went there, I begged the guy, I pleaded with the guy, and I went to school and I asked them, this is what this guy did, please can I have this opportunity to be a veterinarian at the zoo? Because I would love to have, like, been there. And so anyway, what happened was, like, I ended up going to a dairy farm. They put me Oh, great, now I'm upside down. Oh, good, it actually turned around. Okay, good. Okay, good, because I was, like, starting to worry about that. Okay, so it did it again, the thing where it shut off on me once again. So anyway, so long story short, I ended up working on working on the dairy farm instead of working at the Bronx Zoo like I was hoping for, and because of that, that actually changed my whole course of life, because there I met a guy who hated his job. He told me, I was working there, and it was 56 days. It wasn't 3 months, but it was 56 days, so it's shy of 2 months. It was almost a month and 4 days shy of 2 months. But I was there. So anyway, so I was there for a long time, and I would say 3 months, but it's actually 2 months, almost 2 months. And I worked on a dairy farm, and in that dairy farm, I had a scenario where it was like I asked the veterinarian who was working there about what it's like being a veterinarian, and this doesn't stand true for all the veterinarians in the world and people who go through this situation, but it went for him, and it's true for him. Because it was true for him, he made it real for me. So what he did was this: I said, "How's it being a veterinarian?" He was like, blankety blank 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 blank. He just went down the list. He went blank 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 blank. I was like, well, what do you mean? And so he said, well, he said, no matter what you do for the animal's still gonna die. You know? And I was like, wow, okay, well, he said, yeah, you'll prolong their life a little bit, but ultimately they're gonna die. And so, wow, okay, that was a big hit. Number one. He said, number two, you're gonna be one putting them to sleep. And so I was like, I was like, I mean, I had already gone to the theater of death myself with my lizards and things, and so I didn't like the whole aspect of that. And anyway, so what happened was like I wanted to save life, not take life. And yeah, it really is. He kind of messed me up. That was just two. I got like several more going down the line. He said also that there are gonna be people you're gonna run into that they're gonna say that hey, um, you know what? I have a perfectly healthy dog here, but I don't want anybody else to have it, so I want you to put the dog to sleep. You know. And you have three options at that point. One, you can tell the person no, and they'll just go to the next veterinarian who will do it. Two, you can take a dog with you, and the dog will be your pet, from there going forward. Or three, you do what they say, and you put the animal to sleep because you have no more resources. Or I guess fourth, another one you could do, you can get it to another pound, and then maybe they could give it a pound or another situation where somebody else could find it or find a home for it. And that was kind of like a thought there. Said people come into plenty, and also he said also that people may not be able to pay. You have many years of school you got to go through, and school all too often people want freebies because they're your friends and things like that, and you have your school debt. And you got to pay your school debt because that thing ain't cheap. So they're going through the whole city. I mean, he told me all this stuff. And I mean, when people tell you the truth, they can tell you the truth in two ways. They can tell you the truth lightly, with kindness and understanding, and they'll be able to work with you, and you have a better understanding about stuff. Or they can tell you the brutally honest truth, and they don't sugarcoat it, just tell you straight up, boom, and hit you flat truth. And that's kind of what he did. He hit me flat in the head with truth. And he asked me, he says, what would you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? And at that point, I was convinced I was going to be a dino paleontologist veterinarian kind of person. And then so I was like, well, I'm not really sure at this point now because I mean, he kind of like, he didn't just say that. He said a lot of other things too. He was like, it's going to be this, 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 this. He went down the line. And then he was just like, he hated it. He hated his job. He hated being a farm veterinarian. He hated just being there. And he just dissuaded me from the whole thing, just told me, he said, I know animals' life is great, but I mean, maybe I should spend time with working on people's lives, and help them. Anyway, so what happened was like, after